Hello, everybody. It is Octa time, and this one is a big one because there's so much going on in the world. We've got about 55 stories to tell in about 22 minutes. Let's see if we can do it. We're going to talk about everything that's going to come this week. Whole bunch of charts, whole bunch of data that will blow your mind. At least it gets me very excited. But this is why this one's called Full Send. And it reminds me of it's what we used to say when we were going sailing, pop a huge spinnaker in very heavy weather, just send it down there or drive a car off a cliff or whatever. That's the story today. So let's get into it. A big thank you to Sean D, T and D, K8, and everybody else. And this is not financial advice. And shout out to everybody on Patreon too. This is from John Ingle. Thank you so much. Just listening to James. Getting in early to certain assets has significantly increased my returns. Now I'm a Patreon member looking to turbocharge what I've made. Awesome. That's the way. Get in early, get in hard. It makes investing so much easier, so much easier. Let's get into the ugly news first. Not a lot to touch on, thank goodness. This is the story so far with our friends on the unlock category. A few ones to mention. ZK, 4% unlock. Ape, always every week. Optimism, 7% big. Jupiter, a small 1.75%. Sui, 1.23%, also small. And Eigenlayer, 14% unlock. That's a lot. And let's get into the ugly or the bad news. This is pretty bad. A lot of people are very worried about the cost of living. And you can see here, consumers anticipate inflation-adjusted income will not keep track with the growth in prices over the next 1 to 2 years. And that's pretty startling. But despite all that, we're cutting rates regardless of what happens. Sasha, come here. Come here. Sorry, the dog is eating something. Give me a second. I got to stop her. Sorry. That could have been dangerous. He was chewing on a cable. Anyhow, let's get into the good news. Excuse that little live TV interruption. Let's look at the fear and greed. We're at 52 for crypto. Not bad. And despite Rectember normally being Rectember, it is a September to remember. We're now up nearly 8% for the month. Bitcoin just about to click close to touching $117,000. So yeah, all the people that packed their bags and said, that's it for the bull market. And no. And I'll show you some tailwinds that'll prove that as well. Let's look at the results over the last 7 days since I did this at the exact same time 7 days ago. A few things actually did beat Bitcoin. You got Ethereum, Binance, Sol, XRP, etc., all up against Bitcoin. CRO, the bloom came off. That rose pretty fast as well. In terms of dollars, you can see Bitcoin up 4.24% for the week. Not bad. Binance had a green week too. So we're making it. We're making it slowly but surely. And part of the reason for that is the money flow. Follow the money. Like I always say, digital assets pulled in $3.3 billion in inflows last week. $3.3 billion. Not bad. It was $2.5 billion after 3 days. Where'd all the money go? Let's have a looky and see. Bitcoin had the strongest inflow, about 2.4 billion. I think that's since June or July. Very, very strong numbers. And remember, we're still early. I'll share some data later as well, showing you how early we are. And what else? Ethereum had 8 consecutive trading days of outflows, but that turned around and it registered 4 straight days of inflows last week, totaling $600 million. Solana had the biggest single day inflow ever on Friday, $145 million, $200 million for the week. That was big. And remember, there's at least 10 ETFs coming real soon. And when that happens, things will really kick off. Let's get back to Bitcoin, look at some on-chain data. Bitcoin on exchanges at a 7-year low. 7-year low, ladies and gentlemen, from Crypto Quant. Again, it's a relevant thing. There's a lot of people out there that think either one of two things. One, when Bitcoin is on exchange, it means it's for sale. No, a lot of people don't trust themselves with cold storage. So they keep it on their Coinbase or Binance or whatever. But there's some people that think when it gets down to this level, there is not much to buy because those people that hold it on exchanges aren't necessarily sellers. They could be long-term holders. They could have it there for the last 5 years and then have no intention of selling. And this is why Fidelity is getting very concerned right now about what they call illiquid supply. So, for example, you hear me talk about Solana and nearly 70% being staked. That means 30% is liquid. 70% is illiquid. It's not easy to sell. It's kind of locked away, held by long-term holders, etc., etc. But when you look at this from Fidelity, they looked at the liquid supply versus still to be mined supply, etc., versus illiquid supply. When you break this down and you look at the dramatic changes over time from 2010 to 2025, all Q2, it's nothing short of amazing, and this should get you very bullish. So far, right now, the illiquid supply, Fidelity believe, could be as high as 8.3 million by 2032. It could even be higher. Remember, I believe there'll never be more than 50 million Bitcoin. And the problem is things like ETFs and Treasuries are soaking up a ton of Bitcoin. Okay? Long-term holders and corporate Treasuries could lock up easily 6 million Bitcoin this year. And that could grow a lot over time. I think 8.3 million is actually conservative. I think it could be a lot higher than that by 2032. And again, this tightening supply will, guess what? It will boost price, okay? When there's less available for sale, price goes up. It's that simple. Don't overthink it. Other stuff that's kind of interesting is Treasuries are sharks. These are the new players. I'm glad to see Crypto Quant and Axel talking about this. I made a cohort video that I construed about 4 or 5 months ago. I think it was early 2025. I was like, oh my God, these sharks have just exploded. And I believe these sharks are treasuries. They are not retail investors. They might be some small sovereigns, but pretty much treasuries. So I said treasuries are sharks, and they are the new players. What's really stunning, since July 2024, shark wallets between 100 Bitcoin and 1,000 Bitcoin have added 1 million Bitcoin, bringing their balance to 6 million Bitcoin. Okay. This is now the biggest and largest cohort. I've been looking at cohorts since 2017. And it used to be whales had it all, and then it trickled down to, no, humpback whales had it all, and then it was whales, and then it was whatever the next animal is. And then sharks were nowhere to be seen. Now they are the biggest cohort and fastest growing cohort by far. And people are always worried, oh my God, the whales are selling. We don't care about the whales anymore, okay? Because when we look at how much the whales have sold, you break this out here. Again, shout out to Axel for doing the great work. Saves me from doing all my work to put this together. Whales between 1 and 10,000 Bitcoin have reduced their balance by 324,000 Bitcoin. And now they have 3.5 million. Humpbacks greater than 10,000 Bitcoin have reduced their bag by 390,000 Bitcoin. Okay, so the whales have dumped 715,000 Bitcoin distributed, and people were freaking out. Oh my God, the whales are dumping, driving the price down. But guess what? Guess what? These whales and the humpbacks dropped 700,000 Bitcoin since July 2024. And the sharks by 1 million. Okay, that's all you need to know. That's a net deficit of 300,000. That confirms my theory from early 2025 that treasuries are the sharks and they're eating everything. So don't worry too much about the whales anymore. Worry about the biggest cohort, sharks. If the sharks start dumping, then we have a problem, ladies and gentlemen. Bitcoin open interest also remains very healthy. This is a very bullish sign for the market too, as if it couldn't get better. And believe me, every time I put these octas together, I look for ugly news. I look for bad news. I really do. And I struggle to find scary stuff. Now, enter Eric. I won't mention his last name because it causes derangement in some. But he says Bitcoin is modern day gold, and he said it's the greatest hedge to real estate. Remember, him and his family have a huge amount of real estate, and they're worried their real estate value is going to go to zero, so they're going all in on Bitcoin. Interesting perspective. And other interesting perspective is gold. I've spoken more about gold this year than I have my entire life. Why do we care? Because Bitcoin follows gold, another bullish signal. But for years, for at least the last 20 months or so, everybody's saying, oh my God, everybody's buying gold. Everybody's going nuts. Everybody's yelling into gold. The truth is, no, they're not. All right. No, they are not. There are people that hodl gold and they've held it for 20 years or whatever, the so-called gold bugs. But the younger generation, they're not buying gold. The older generation are not buying gold. But you know who is? China is buying gold. This is the real reason gold is skyrocketing. The gold inventories in Shanghai are to the moon, everybody. This is who is stacking gold. And why are the Chinese stacking gold? Because they are weaning themselves off the US dollar and treasuries. All the stuff that they're dumping in US treasuries is going straight into gold. And that's what you see right here. Okay? It's not hard. Very simple. But the other good thing that's kind of fun about this is the pre-gaming, warm-up game, whatever, for Bitcoin. Because Bitcoin is digital gold. Okay? And Bitcoin is the end game. China just doesn't know it yet. But this is a very good omen for us in Bitcoin. Why do I care? Because I put two charts together. One, based on the LILO model, I think it's looking pretty clear given this upward channel and the girth of the trend and the momentum and the layers. Gold is on track to hit $4,000. The rally continues almost every single day because China is buying hand over fist, ladies and gentlemen. And new highs, we're getting new highs for stocks. We have a rate cut coming. Everybody's going risk on, risk off. Nobody knows which way is up anymore. But investors are being rewarded on both sides. Gold is considered risk off, but it's going to the moon because the Chinese are buying. And risk on is going to the moon because rate cuts are coming and everybody's buying disruption. It's that simple. Be in the narratives. Okay? Now, again, why do we care about gold? Well, I put a little chart together, okay, to try estimate where Bitcoin could go if gold hits $4,000. Of course, Bitcoin's a much faster horse. If, for example, gold goes up 5%, Bitcoin goes up 20%. That's just the easy way to think about it. Now, this is the Bitcoin gold pair chart. And basically, on average, during these types of bull runs, you get about 40 ounces of gold per Bitcoin. Okay? We are way off that ratio right now. We could easily hit that again. If gold goes to $4,000 and we have the pair ratio of 40 ounces of gold per Bitcoin, that takes the Bitcoin price to, guess what? $160,000, which is confluent with the M2 tracker and a lot of targets of 150K plus. Don't give up hope, ladies and gentlemen. Watch gold. That's your canary in the mine. It's not hard. It really is not hard. And there's more good stuff coming. If we couldn't have more tailwinds, Sylvain Muster, grüezi wohl. Lummis is planning a strategic Bitcoin reserve meeting apparently in DC today to push her Bitcoin reserve bill forward to buy up to 1 million Bitcoin. Technically, no, up to 800,000 because they already have 200,000 from confiscation from some sheriff's department somewhere. But looking at what's happening live in DC, apparently this is happening. And guess who's there? Michael Saylor. Guess who's also there? Tom Lee, looking pretty grumpy. He doesn't look happy because they're talking about Bitcoin and Bitcoin reserve, not an ETH reserve. I don't know, allegedly. But Michael Saylor is here, again, to help advance the strategic Bitcoin reserve. Again, they need to get 800,000. Michael Saylor has about, let's call it 650,000. That's your sovereign put right there. They need a quick way of pressing a button and getting all that Bitcoin without exploding the price. They just buy Michael Saylor's MicroStrategy. That's simple. We'll see. Anyhow, other stuff, a lot of Bitcoin news today. Santander, the bank that used to dislike Bitcoin, the bank that used to limit your ability to send your own money, for example, in places like the UK and other European countries, to a crypto exchange. They said, no, you can't do that to buy Bitcoin. Now they're letting you trade Bitcoin in Germany, which is great for our friends in Germany. Santander's open bank launches Bitcoin and crypto trading for all retail clients. Woohoo! Welcome. Welcome to the future. And you're still early. Also, Thailand. We've got some people here in the audience that are in Thailand right now as we speak, or they go there quite often. They offer 0% capital gains tax on Bitcoin. Woohoo! If it's traded, of course, on national exchanges. So if you can get your Bitcoin, say you're in the UK and you moving to Thailand or spend a lot of time there, move it to an exchange there. Hopefully it's a secure one. And then live on it tax-free. Why not? Why not? That's the future. Very soon, people will flee countries looking for safer places, low-cost places with sunshine and water and peace and love and beaches and places where they accept Bitcoin. That's just what's going to happen. Also, another future forecast, which is happening way sooner than expected. And back to crypto, stablecoins are very much needed. Bessent has one job, and that's basically shilling treasuries. The easiest way for him to shill treasuries and keep up that dollar hegemony, which you've discussed many times on this channel, is to push stablecoins real fast. And foreign investors now, these basic charts show you, is how much foreign investors are dumping dollar reserves at an unprecedented pace. Let me take you right back. This is what they're buying in some place like China. They're dumping their US treasuries and they're buying gold. That's why gold is going to the moon. It's that simple. So the US really needs stablecoins and expects more good stuff happening in this as well. And speaking of stablecoins, Tether mint $3 billion in 4 days. It's like, press button, $1 billion, $1 billion, $1 billion. We'll talk about another $1 billion in a minute too. When I was growing up as a kid, $1 million was a lot of money. That's how old I am. Now $1 billion is like nothing. This is mad. Anyhow, let's check in. AltSeason has begun. Literally, we haven't been up in this zone since 2024, and we got there real fast. We are now in 78 AltSeason score versus 75, which is when we kick off. And here we are. In terms of everything that's happened over the last 90 days, you can see Bitcoin in black towards the bottom right. Everything else to the left of it has smoked it. Top 50 cryptos completely on fire. Everything up a lot. Everything. If you are in a crypto asset over the last 30 days and it hasn't gone up 30 to 50%, check if it's alive. Maybe check its pulse or something. See if it's still kicking. Because if it's not, it's probably a zombie. Anyway, let's talk about Dan Morehead from Pantera. He's an OG in crypto, his crypto fund, and he knows his stuff. And I'm so happy we have somebody on CNBS spitting facts, ladies and gentlemen. Pantera founder, Dan Pantera. His name is Dan Morehead, not Dan Pantera, but they wrote it here in the tweet. I just think it's kind of cute. It's like calling Tim Cook Tim Apple. Remember that funny one back in the day? Anyway, we'll see. But Solana can do more transactions per day than all capital markets combined on the planet. Woohoo! He is extremely bullish on this. And he's also very heavily involved with a lot of the Solana treasury companies that are just exploding as well. These Solana treasury companies now have over 10 million Solana. This is in the model, and there's 7 of them now. A couple of them are a little shaky, so I don't want to put them on the list here because they could be zombies, but we'll see. But we have a new entrant. It's Ford, and they have nearly 7 million Sol. You add up these puppies alone, you have 11 million Sol in there between UPXI, DFDV, Stake, which is the new ticker for Sol Strategies. And also on here, you got the NAV premium. UPXI is down at 0.63, which means you can buy Solana by buying that share and get 37% off your Solana price. DFDV is trading at a 3% discount to the Solana price. Stake is 1.84. Their NAV premium has come down as 2.55 a couple of weeks ago. And Ford is the newest entrant at 2.07 because it's new, it's shiny, and has that nice premium. It's as if, could be a little theory here, the older a company becomes, the more stale they become, the less NAV premium they have. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. Moving on, Dan is back again, and he has something pretty astounding to say. Basically, his firm, Pantera, have their largest position, and they have all sorts of assets. They have Ethereum, they have Bitcoin, etc. But their largest position by far is Solana with $1.1 billion in assets, which is pretty big. But again, shout out to CMBS for having smart people on the TV talking facts. Now, let's talk money. The reason we talk about Solana is money. I follow the money. Okay? If a chain is making money, I talk about it. If a chain is not making money or has no adoption, I don't talk about it. Okay? Simple facts. But here, the two names that are on top, Solana, this is just app revenue in 24 hours. Made $10.2 million in a day. Hyperliquid, 3.4 million. Hyperliquid, a little perp dex, makes more money than the whole Ethereum chain. Okay? Solana makes nearly 4 times more money than Ethereum, the apps. Okay, this is all you need to know. Something is not right in the universe. And look at the top, dApps that made $200 million in August. That's on average. That's many millions a day. Is up 126% year over year. Okay, some of the big numbers. Again, the top 10 apps capture 86.5% of all activity. Okay, very big. And some of the names, they're Axiom, Pump.Fun, Phantom, Jupiter, Meteor, Radium, etc. All in there. These are the chains that make the money. And it's not just these guys too. Marinade is cooking. Let's cook. The infrastructure revenues hit 7.4 million, and Marinade Finance up 42% to $1 million. Again, these things are just making a lot of money, which is important. And Eric, the guy we mentioned before, also has his finger in the Solana pie, and he acknowledges Bonk Fun and Radium partnership with World Liberty Financial, which is their kind of container ship for a whole bunch of crypto. Let's talk about stocks and AI and a little bit of macro real quick. Fear and greed is 58 for the stock market, which is higher than crypto. And let's look at the week we just had over the last 7 days exactly. Google up a monster 23%, Oracle 24%, and Tesla 24.88%. Tesla wins the week. Risk happens fast. Broadcom also up 15%. Nvidia down 4%, Apple up 2%, Microsoft down 4%, Amazon flat. That's pretty much what's going on. And again, big move, because what happened? Well, the Wartime CEO is back, and he says, Elon Musk, daddy is very much home. I actually would prefer if he did not share his travel plans and locations, because the world is not a safe place anymore. So Elon, please, if you're listening, do not telegraph where you're going to be, what you're up to, who you're going to be with, or whatever. Just do your thing. We know you're working hard 7 days a week, but he's working heavily on Optimus, AI5 chip, Colossus, Tesla FSD, everything, vehicle production, which means new vehicle as well. And guess what? Guess what he did for poops and giggles last week? He decided, I'm just going to place the biggest market order buy ever in the history of the planet. Just buy me $1 billion worth of Tesla on the stock market. Yeah, on Friday. It was wild. It was so funny because I remember saying I was totally wrong by this. I said, oh my God, look, TradFi is catching up. They're stacking Tesla. No, it was Elon Musk behind the scenes. And by the way, I think I need to calculate a multiplier. I've done multipliers for Solana. I've done multipliers for Ethereum, multipliers for Bitcoin. Should I do a multiplier for Tesla? What happens when $1 billion flows into the asset in one day? How much does the price go up? It's going to be wild. If you're interested, drop a comment below on that new multiplier, because that can be applied to other stocks too as well. And Tesla leaps back into the top 10, soon to be the top 8, because it's very close to TSMC and Saudi Aramco. And then after that, it'll be Broadcom, and then Meta and Amazon, etc. But even with Nvidia down this week, it's still worth $4.3 trillion. Again, when I was a kid, $1 million was a lot. Now $1 billion is nothing. Now everything's measured in trillions. If you don't have trillions, it's like, is there a show called Billions of Trillions? I don't know. Anyhow, hedge funds are also loading up on tech stocks like only once earlier in this year. I think it was early this year they loaded up, and then once in 2024 they loaded up nearly to this extent. But this is the third highest amount ever hedge funds have YOLO'd into tech stocks. Okay, that's a sign. Hedge funds typically move first, and the rest of TradFi moves later. So what have hedge funds concluded? Well, I surmise they figured out that AI is very real. Could be wrong. And this is the full send slide. Okay, we are now 100% sure of a rate cut tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, there's a 4% chance it'll be a 50 basis point cut. It'll probably just be 25 basis points and then 25 basis points next month and after that. But either way, it's going to be fun. Now, a lot of people believe it could be a sell the news event. And again, as usual, it depends on the commentary by Jerome Powell. I think his hand has been forced. He's got to talk dovish. And if he does not see the labor market screaming in pain, I'm going to just go to his face and go, tap his cheeks so he can wake up. The labor market sucks. He didn't achieve his magical unicorn 2% inflation, which I've mocked him for years on. Eventually, here we are. So we'll see where it all goes. And another crazy macro news too. Things can get wilder. Everybody was forecasting tariffs are going to kill the economy. GDP will go negative 3%, etc. Well, the Atlanta Fed's Q3 GDP forecast, whatever they call it, was revised up again to 3.4% growth, and now above the Q2 figure, which caught everybody with their pants down by surprise. And this upward shift was driven again by strong retail sales numbers. Everybody, this funniest thing ever, when the tariff tantrums happened, everything, the shelves are going to be empty. You're going to be really angry in a couple of months because you won't be able to buy anything. Well, how come retail sales are up? People are figuring out a way to keep the shelves completely stocked and GDP growing up. So again, madness. And speaking of AI too, Google is partnering with Coinbase for AI crypto payments. This is huge. We know in order for AI to do its thing with agents, etc., they need to charge very small fees in a very frictionless manner. And you can't use a credit card for that. It has to be on the blockchain. So you put a little wallet up there. Google will probably have their own little wallet. You'll use your little Gemini. You'll run a little program to be an agent for you or manage your life or your business or whatever. And as it works, it'll pull from your wallet. It'll be paid in crypto, whether a stablecoin or Bitcoin or something else. It's wild. This is now real. No longer a fantasy. It's real. And the rest will follow. And other interesting news too. Now, I haven't had this much time to dig into this. Big respect to S.E. Robinson. I subscribe to him on Twitter. Great stuff. And a shout out to Sanjay as well for bringing this to my attention. But this lady is, what's her name? Amy, I can't even read. I need to get my eyes fixed. Amy Soller. She's formerly from NVIDIA and DARPA, and she's joined XAI to help the US government get smarter, okay? And to integrate the world's leading AI and capabilities into defense and intelligence sectors. So when I hear this, I'm thinking, interesting. So former government official, expert from NVIDIA, etc., embracing the world's leading AI to make the government smarter. Could this be a new Palantir 2.0? Maybe. I think so. But I could be wrong. We'll see. And finally, we are still so early. For those in Germany and other places that now you can use your Santander bank to buy Bitcoin, Hunter Horsley says one of the largest US banks, $1 trillion plus in assets, has onboarded Bitwise as their asset manager. But not only is it a very large $1 trillion plus bank, but they have 10,000 people. They call them wealth managers, but really they're like salespeople. They sell funds and things like that. These 10,000 people will now all of a sudden be armed with Bitwise ETFs for Bitcoin. That's it. Okay. Money. Like when we go back to the money that's flowing into these puppies, it's wild. Let me pull this up again. This was a reminder of how much came in last week, because I think it's 3.5 billion. How much was that? 3.3 billion last week. Okay. Now we have 10,000 new people from one bank that have $1 trillion in assets. And they're going to be talking to the customers saying, whoops, you know what? You don't have any Bitcoin. You need a little bit. So allocate 1% or 5% to it. Again, we're still so early. And finally, meme du jour. Sorry, it was a long one. 55 puppies of information. And a big thank you to everybody coming as well. Oh, lots of you. Nick M. Do travels. Before I get to the meme of the day, which is hilarious. Jonathan Prates, Sol Strider, Invested, Doc Intern, AR Ron, Sylvan Mustard, Jimmy Neal, B-Man, Swiping and Swiping, A Bottle of Red, Beans of Green, Anderson W., Half Viking, and Rambling Roy. Thank you all for coming. This is the fun meme of the day, which I thought was hilarious because I am plagiarizing other people's memes. Using another's meme as plagiarizing. He said, copying and using all their memes is research. I thought that was funny. But sometimes these memes can be quite profound and you can learn a lot from them too. And sometimes as well, the best way to educate is through fun and entertainment. Edutainment is what I call this thing at the very beginning. And all these videos are turned into Substacks and podcasts and everything else. If you want the slides, you want to read it again, because they go very fast. And I hope you all learned something new today. Thank you once again to the Mods Chat, TND Tesla, TND Tesla. Hope you're enjoying the Tesla action, TND Tesla. Sean D, you know who you are, and K8. Appreciate you. Let me know in the comment below if you want me to build that new stock multiplier. If $1 billion flows into an asset, what will the price do? Oh, Bitcoin's about to hit 117K. Woohoo. We are $60 away. That's nice. All fun. So much for Rectember. RIP Rectember. Never speak too soon, though, because there could be a black swan. Jerome Powell could raise interest rates by 50 basis points tomorrow and kill us all. Heaven forbid. Not going to happen. But anyway, thank you all. Good night.